How's it going?
Good morning.
Morning, morning. Are you leading the meeting this morning?
Yeah, I was gonna tell everybody surprise. I'm filling in for Brian this morning. He's down in Disney with his family for the week, so I thought I could fill in for him.
Okay. Yeah, I had reached out to him yesterday and let him know that I had to drive up to Greensboro this morning for work. So I just made sure it was gonna be cool that I kind of just was sitting in the car listening in pretty much, so that way I'd at least get some knowledge while I'm driving. So
Yeah, definitely.
cool, cool. I'm Devin, by the way. You must be Logan.
Yeah, yeah, good to see you. I think we talked on the phone one day, but good to see
Yep.
your face.
Yeah, absolutely. You too.
I'll give it
Um,
I'll give it to 9:05 until we get started here.
okay. I was gonna ask if you had any idea of how many people are supposed to be on today or not.
No, I don't know. I mean, it's usually three, four, some weeks five, kind of in that range.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you, Maria? Good,
Doing good. Thank you for asking.
good.
Hey,
Hey,
Logan, if
Tony.
you
Hey,
want,
Avery.
sorry,
Hey,
if you want, I can turn my camera off so that way it's not distracting since I've got stuff moving around in the background and all that.
Um, yeah, it's up to you. I don't really see it. It's just a little thingamajigger up on the top, so
Yeah.
it doesn't really affect me that much because I'm gonna share my screen here in a second. So
Oh, okay.
if you turn off your camera, I'm not well. Maybe if you can still see the shared screen, then I guess it's fine. I don't really
Yeah,
remember how that works.
it's all good.
Turn off my phone here. All right. Let's so today we're gonna talk about buyers. So this is about how to work with buyers. And although I have not taught this Rev Up class before, I've been a part of 1,000 transactions or more and represented over 500 of them myself. And so I've worked with, I have no idea how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of buyers throughout 19 years that I've been doing this. So I think I'm pretty well qualified to talk about how to work with buyers, but we may not go through the presentation exactly as it is, but we'll run through it. And then do you guys get the additional information in the worksheets that Brian shared, or do I need to upload those to the presentation here? Or is that something that you guys get as additional materials in here? Does anybody know?
Yeah, I think after the class, Brian normally emails like the
Okay.
what he went over.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, he sent me that stuff in an email too, so I'll get you guys all that stuff. So we'll go through all this stuff. But yeah, the this is module 6. It's called working with buyers / getting your offer accepted. And so yeah, I mean I did that twice over the weekend and got one offer accepted. So let's jump in and get started here. And then, like you said, I'll forward everyone on this training the worksheets and the questions and stuff that that he's going to talk about. So let me share my screen here. And we want to share the PowerPoint presentation. Oh, wait a second. I need to hit the, do it in the presentation mode. Oh, no, I guess not. Okay. All right. All right. Can everybody see that now? You got the share screen. Okay. All right. So let's get started on this. So, wow. All right. Wasn't ready for that. But anyway, so the main thing I wanted us to talk about or learn from today, if we take nothing else, is that working with buyers is about two things and two things only. Okay, it's about trust and it's about value. And if there's two things we take away from today, I want you guys to understand that we're trying to gain their trust and provide them with value. Okay, no longer is being a realtor included as just being a gatekeeper to get into the property. So 20 years ago, if somebody wanted to see a property, they had to call a realtor. If somebody wanted to make an offer, they had to call a realtor just to get in the property. But the industry over the last 20 years has transformed into being less of gatekeepers and more of value providers. So we're going to talk about all these slides, but I want you guys to take two things away from it: that when working with buyers, we need to have trust and we need to provide value. Okay, those are the two main things. So the first thing that it talks about is the affirmation of this chapter 6 here. I know my value and only work with realistic, qualified, and motivated buyers and sellers. So there's a catch-22 to this affirmation. While this is true, it's a broad spectrum of who can be considered a realistic, qualified, and motivated buyer or seller. Okay. What I hate when my clients say, and everybody says this all the time, is that I don't want to waste your time, Logan, right? And my response to that has always been the same for the past 19 years. If no one ever wasted my time, I would have never sold one property. Okay. And what I mean by that is that this isn't shopping for Kleenex, right? When you shop for a Kleenex, you walk in the store, you grab the Kleenex, you go check out, it's over. It's wasting your time if you go to 5 stores to look for Kleenexes. But when looking for real estate, if most buyers consider it to be wasting your time if they don't intend to buy the property that they're going to see on that exact day. But as all of us realize, buyers need to see, 10, 20, 30. Some buyers might need to see 75 properties before they're ready and willing to pull the trigger. But that isn't wasting your time. That's part of the process to get them from being a looker to being a buyer. So, especially in the market today with his inventory as low as it is, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I want to buy a property in 2025, I'm going to tell them they need to start looking in like June of 2024. So, but are they a realistic, qualified, and motivated buyer in June of 2024? No, but that's how long it's going to take 6 or 9 months for somebody to find the perfect property in this market, at least in my opinion. So let's go through some of these learning objectives here. Learn the steps of the buyer process, how to qualify and have a consultation with them, how to go through the art of showing homes. I'm notorious for when I show a house, telling people when we walk in, like, hey, look around. You guys seem pretty smart. You don't really need me to tell you what a bathroom or kitchen looks like. Like when you're on HGTV and the realtor opens up the door, like, this is a bedroom. Like, that's pretty cheesy. I don't think people really do that in real life. And then we'll go through some of the purchase agreements, a buyer's market versus seller market. And then, the art in here is actually getting your offers accepted. And that's when you have to have the discussion with your buyers about how ready, willing, and able they are to purchase the property, because that's going to determine usually whether their offer gets accepted or not. So All right. So how do we attract buyers in the first place, right? So I'm guessing everybody here on this call would like to be working with more buyers than they currently are. So let's talk about some of the ways to attract buyers. Most of these are pretty obvious: open house, prospecting, networking, social media mailers. But really, there's an unlimited a way to attract buyers. I mean, if you just part of the reason I got into this business is just realizing that everybody needs a home. I don't like being a salesperson. I don't like pushing insurance products on people or other things that you need to quote unquote sell people. But I realized pretty easily that everybody needs a place to live, and everybody wants to live in a nicer place than they currently live. That's just been humanity, I'm pretty sure, since the creation of man. So as long as those two things are accurate, then pretty much everybody is a potential buyer. Anyone you come in contact with throughout the day is a potential buyer, whether they're 18 years old or 98 years old. They're a potential buyer. There are people in their 80s and 90s in Florida actively buying properties. So whether you meet them in the grocery store or at your kid's soccer game, or you do an open house, I pretty look up, I like to think of just everyone as a potential buyer at some point. And again, if I can exert myself as someone who's a professional, someone that can be trusted, and someone that provides value to them, then sure, it might take me, a month, a year, 5 years to convert them into being a buyer. But there's really not anybody I would exclude from being a buyer. So obviously there's other ways, just to look in this, but I've always been most successful with referrals, open houses, and networking. Now, I think it's odd that they, claim social media to be its own thing, but very few buyers are going to come just directly to you off seeing you off social media, unless you have a friend in common or you've done some sort of networking from them. I like to think of social media as one line to have in the water. You should always have it in the water, bobbing out there with some bait on it for somebody to hopefully click on. But if it's your only pole in the water, you're not going to catch a whole lot of fish. Obviously, referrals are the holy grail of real estate, because those people come to you already knowing who you are and usually trusting you through a third party. There's no better way to gain somebody's trust than to get it from a third party. And so that's why I always teach people that I've built my business on referrals and word of mouth. But that's also because when I got into this industry, I was 24 years old and I just didn't have any money. So almost all the other forms of this attracting buyers requires money. And I didn't have any of that. So I was forced to just do referral and word of mouth and networking. But here I am, a long time later, and it's still working for me. So yeah, I would just say you need to be doing a part of all of this. I'm not a fan of door knocking. I don't believe in door knocking, but do I believe in maybe doing some door knocking if you're having an open house on a Saturday from 2 to 4? Do I think it's good to door knock the Friday before in the evening to invite the people who live right in the area that your open house is, to invite them to like a special sneak peek before the open house starts on Saturday? I think that's a pretty good plan. But otherwise, I wouldn't just go randomly door knocking in neighborhoods unless you had something specifically that you wanted to tell those people. But all the other stuff, now's a great time of year to do neighborhood mailers, especially in the neighborhood that you yourself live in. I like doing like a 2023 snapshot, make an Excel little spreadsheet, put it in a Word document, make it look pretty with all the homes that sold in that neighborhood, the price per square foot, the address, all that data. People love getting that stuff. And you can usually get a partner if you give them the bottom third of the sheet of paper, an insurance guy or mortgage guy. You can usually get them to pay for your postage, and then you just gotta fold up the envelopes and put them together. But January is a great time to get that out there, because remember too, you're also prospecting sellers for them to become buyers. most people, the vast majority of sales are move up or move down sales. All right, so we covered that pretty good. Let's move on now to so what they've got here is a 14-step process to get it through. So the buyer qualification, number one, to be 100% honest with everybody, buyer qualification usually goes something like this. Hey, I'm interested in buying a house. And you're like, okay, they're good. Because you're excited just to have somebody live and in person and with a pulse, and man, you're fired up. You probably should have a little bit more of a qualification with them to try. You're trying to just, what the kids are calling today, suss out some of these people that just don't have the financial wherewithal to purchase a house, but really want to. Right, like they have a credit score under 600. They've never talked to a mortgage broker before. They have $1,800 in the bank. They're living, above their means. They're renting and they can't afford the rent. So they think if they buy, it'll be better because they can fix the cost. I mean, there's just some people in America that have been sold the idea that home ownership is for them, and they're not at a place to do that. So I'd say step one is just kind of, you can usually put your finger in the air and determine whether or not these people are going to be able to purchase a home. Now they may want a $500,000 house, but the reality of the situation is they can only afford $400,000 house. But that's fine. Let the mortgage broker have that discussion with them, not you as the realtor, right? And so that's where it's great to have some of these mortgage partner connections that we have in the office. We've got two at Atlantic Bay, Tony G and Allie, and we've got Michael Caldwell at Movement. But the good part is that both, the people aren't that important, but Atlantic Bay and Movement are two of the top mortgage brokers in the Carolinas. So my personal thing is I send my buyers a list of 3 mortgage brokers, and I tell them to just call down the list until they get somebody. It doesn't matter who they talk to for the pre-approval. They're not locked into using them when they go to purchase it. So, but you want to do some sort of qualification for these people, right? But I don't know if sometimes I like to just show them a house or two, again, to build up their trust in me and their value proposition in me before I really hammer them with the qualification stuff. You just don't want to get too in the nitty gritty in the weeds of these people. Because like I said, they might come to you looking for a $500,000 house. You might show them a $500,000 house, and then you can have the conversation with them of, hey, have you guys talked to a lender yet? That's really the first step. So we can make sure that $500,000 is the accurate budget. Do you know how much that mortgage payment is every month? Blah, 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 blah. And it's an easier conversation to have with them when you're at a house that they like and they're interested in. But in technical real estate terms, you're supposed to have them pre-approved before showing them houses. I'm just telling you that I'm not sure I like that methodology, but it can quote unquote save you time if that's what you're interested in. Can save you the 30 minutes of showing them the house, because if they realize they can only buy a $350,000 or $400,000 house and not 500, they might just say, we're not doing that. We're going to save up more money, or we're going to get a better job, or whatever they're not going to do, but they'll tell you they will. All right, and then step 2 is kind of what they're saying is a consultation, is more of like a, they want you to sit down with your buyers at like a Starbucks. And so I like to do this before going to look with people, whether it's over the phone or in person. Obviously, in person is better, but that doesn't work all the time. But here's where I try to get them to sort of describe to me their idea of a dream home, right? In this discussion, you should always be skewing to ask the woman more questions than the man, like a 60-40 split. Because let me tell you, she's making more than 51% of the decisions about where they live. So ask her 60% of the questions, and he'll throw in like, man, yeah, if I have a place for my grill. And you're like, well, what house doesn't have a place for my grill? But women are real particular about what they want. Men are pretty easygoing typically, but just in the consultation, it's just The reason I say that is because a lot of times the husband is going to do the majority of the talking because he thinks he's making a financial decision. He doesn't realizing he's making an emotional decision for his family. He doesn't want to think that way up front. So he'll be like, well, we can only spend $450 and not $1 more, and it needs to have 4 bedrooms and blah, blah, blah. But that's the easy stuff. Like, you really need to figure out like where she wants to live, what neighborhood, what's close to the kids' schools and sports. And, those are the things that are going to actually determine where they live. And the husband's honestly usually just going to swallow whatever the number is at the end of the day. But so the consultation is like, hey, all right, well, tell me about what you guys are looking for. Oh, we got an 1,800 square foot house now. We really need more space. The kids are growing up, blah, blah. That's the kind of consultation, that you want to have. You're trying to narrow down the search range during the consultation, right? But at the same time, you don't want to put your search criteria to be every single thing they say. For instance, tons of buyers will tell you, we have to have a house with a fenced yard. So we've got 2 idiots running around in the backyard and they need a fence. Well, any house can get a fence. It's not a real criteria that you need to set on day one. Is that something that someone's going to make or break as somebody's decision? No, fences are 5-6 grand, whatever. They can buy a little bit cheaper house and put in a fence a month down the road, or they can, God forbid, actually get out and walk their dogs around the neighborhood. But so some criteria, like you want to write all that stuff down, and they like to see you taking notes. Oh, wow, good. He's really paying attention and all that sort of stuff. But, you want to find out what's sort of important to them. And you'll always get to some sort of rub about it when there's a family, like the kids have nowhere to play. So then you just jot down like, okay, they need a bonus room, right? Or, we're in a townhouse now. We really need a yard. Okay, well, how big of a yard? And then you can have a discussion with them. So that's kind of the consultation, is that, you want to be just asking questions and listening about, I like to ask questions about like, okay, well, what's important to you guys in a neighborhood? What's important to you guys in an area of town? What's important to you all when it comes to schools, or how close to your job, right? So people will say, well, I don't want to commute more than like 30 minutes. Well, their budget's only like 250. It's like, all right, well, sorry. But at least you can have the consultation. All right. So step 3, this is where I sort of think things, I mean, this is by the book. I'm going to sort of go through a little bit more of reality. I've never had anybody sign a working with buyer exclusive right to represent the buyer agency agreement before showing them a house. I'm not sure if I've ever had somebody sign a buyer's agency agreement prior to them even making an offer. Why? Well, people don't like signing contracts. Everybody in America thinks, first of all, they think realtors are trying to take advantage of them and screw them over and sell them on something that, which is not true. But that's just, it's like when you go buy a car, you're looking to buy today. No. Well, half the people end up sitting down at the table and buying something, right? But everyone has a negative reaction to signing anything, including myself. I go buy properties in other parts of the country, and if I'm like the step 1, the realtor's like, oh, okay, well, here's my buyer's agent agreement. I'm like, all right, well, we can sign that when we get a little bit closer to making an offer, because they're not sure if they want to work with you yet. Like, so far off this thing, we've had an incoming phone call with them where they said they wanted to buy a house. If we're lucky, we sat down with them for 30 minutes at a Starbucks. We haven't gained their trust or provided them with any value, and we want them to sign a contract saying that for the next 6 months they're wedded to my real estate services. Yes, that's how the state of North Carolina wants this to go, and yes, that is how any broker in charge is going to tell you that you have to do it. I'm going to tell you that step 3 should just be providing them or emailing them with the working with realtors thing. Whether they sign it or not doesn't matter. Shoot them an email saying, hey, North Carolina requires me to send this to you before we can start looking at properties. You don't even have to sign it until we make an offer. I'm just required to give it to you. And by the way, in 5 minutes, you'll get another email with me with the first 10 properties. Please look through them. Let me know if I missed the mark or if I'm right about what you guys are looking for. and then we'll go, we'll narrow that list of 10 properties down to 3, and we'll go look at them as soon as you're available. That's what I would say should be step 3. I don't like the idea of having somebody sign a contract before I've shown them one property. People just don't want to do it, and it's gonna be the off-putting thing where like they think you're trying to like put strong arm them into having your services only. You don't know. I mean, some people are just happy going to look at houses with 2 or 3 realtors, or open houses, or this or that. It's like, I mean, provide some value, gain their trust, then get them to sign something. Number 4 is pretty easy. Like I said, you're gonna probably, after step 2, you're gonna start emailing them properties. So emailing them a gang of properties, and you're just trying to say like, hey, did I sort of hit the bar? Am I way off balance here? Like, did you guys want something that I completely forgot about, or whatever? But usually you just want to send them, whatever, 10, 12 properties, whatever you can find in their criteria. Send it off to them and say, hey, why don't you guys narrow this down to 2 or 3, and we'll go look at them Thursday afternoon or whatever. So that's when you make showing appointments using Showing Time, which is really, it's syndicated through our MLS now, which is really, really simple. You just literally click a button, put in the time that you want, and it makes the appointments for you. You can also download the app, and that's how you make the showings. And let me move this over here. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, after you make the showings, then eventually they're going to go to step 6, which is properties considered. I'll tell you that the between steps 4 and 6 or 7 could be months, years. I just made an offer for a girl this Saturday morning of this weekend, and I realized that her pre-approval letter was from November of 2022. So that means I've been showing her properties for at least 18 months. So I would just called up the lender and asked them to update it, and everything was fine. We didn't end up getting the property. They had, I think, 4 offers total, but we still tried. But all I'm saying there is that from the time when you start showing someone properties to offers made and negotiated, steps like 7 and 8, I mean that could be days, months, or years. There's really no right or wrong thing there, and I'm notorious for leaving people's searches. I'll rarely ever delete somebody's search until they buy something on MLS. I'll keep them up there for years. I don't care, and I'll email them back 20 times, even if they don't return my emails back or say anything. Doesn't bother me one bit. I know most of the time these people are eventually going to get off the hump. They just need a different catalyst, right? Like maybe they're waiting for a promotion, and promotion times June or something. They hear they're getting the promotion, then they reach out to Logan, and they haven't talked to me in 9 months. I don't. It doesn't bother me at all, because I've seen it dozens and dozens and dozens of times where have somebody search up there for a year. I think they're not doing anything. Boom, they see something that they like, and then we're off to the races, and they buy it. So yeah, the showings arranged, properties considered, showings arranged, like all that stuff, that's going to be constantly going on the entire time you're working with a buyer. I would never make one of those buyer agency agreements less than 6 months. And if people have a longer time frame, I wouldn't have a problem making it a year. All right, step 8. Offers made negotiated. I believe there's another slide on that, so we'll get that. So we all know what that means. That's when you make the contract. Again, that's normally when I put in the buyer's agency agreement as part of all the documents. It does kind of suck because you're hitting them with like 35 pages of things to DocuSign. But people are just like on their phone clicking through the initials anyways. They're not reading it. I mean, I offer all the time. I'll go through every line with these people. Unfortunately, they never ask questions. I wish they did. And back in the day, 10, 15 years ago, I'd sit down and write offers with people in person, but it's not the way it happens anymore. But let's say we make an offer with somebody, we get our buyer's agency agreement signed. Then the next thing is, it says escrow open, but that's because this is a Realty One thing around the country. We don't really have escrow in the Carolinas, but that just means like you're contacting the closing attorney. Okay, getting the closing scheduled, getting the title work started, getting the mortgage, all that stuff. That's basically what 9 and 10 are. And 11, obviously they're signing the loan docs at the same time they're signing the deed and the title in North Carolina. So 11 and 12 are one step at the closing attorney's office. We are finally rolling out closing. So closings as of January 1st, if attorneys and lenders are set up for it, can be done completely remote without the need of a notary in North Carolina, which is pretty sweet. So you'll literally eventually be able to have closings like this in a secured Zoom room where somebody puts their driver's license up to the camera and they take a picture of it and then they literally sign on their laptop. That's available now legally. We'll see how people start rolling it out. But what I love about that is the ability to have like closings in our offices or at the property that they're doing them, have a pop champagne and make it a fun experience. Because right now closings are the only part of the buying process that we as realtors can't control, and B, they're pretty stuffy and boring. You're in an office, everyone's got to be quiet. Some of these buyers are super excited. They've waited 10 years to do this. They want to make it into a party. I think it's fun that eventually we'll be able to do that kind of stuff. 13 happens in North Carolina when the closing attorney e-records at the courthouse and they get notification that the e-recording has been accepted. That's part 13. And then part 14 is literally essentially the buyers get the keys. But we're going to go through this a little bit more in detail. That's just sort of like the roadmap. All right, so we already went through the qualifying step. I'm not asking people, are all parties strongly motivated? I mean, people just don't really talk like that. But we went through basically what you need to do on that part. So here's one that a different Realty One Group office created. And it's sort of a questionnaire. I mean, I guess this is something where you could email to buyers, provide, before you meet with them, like I'm talking about. But I mean, most of the time, this stuff is going to come over via like email or text message before you have your consultation with them, right? But if you're handling large volumes of incoming buyers, then you might just want to fire off a questionnaire to all of them to see who's really that good. But to me, this isn't personal enough. This is too. It feels like you're filling out a web form, and this business isn't done that way. So yeah, like be sure of the correct price range and be sure of timing. We sort of touched on those things, but the correct price range should come from their discussion with their lender. And I say that for a variety of reasons. Let's say somebody can only afford a mortgage of $300,000. Let's say they're 65 years old, they're on a fixed income, they get $2,600 a month. The lender is going to say, all right, you can only afford a mortgage of $350,000. Okay, so you're going to say, well, I can only show them houses up to $350,000. No, not true. They might have $350,000 in the bank that they want to put down on this property, want to look at $700,000 houses. So that's why I say that discussion first starts between the buyer and the lender to determine how much of a mortgage they can afford and how much down payment they have to go for it. Then they'll be able to figure out their price range. Us trying to figure out their price range is just asking questions like, well, what do you think you guys can afford? Blah, blah, blah. But it's nobody really knows until the lender pulls their credit, looks at their, debt to income ratio, looks at their, buyers that are 28 years old, like it's not uncommon for these people to have, they can be making $100,000 a year and not be able to afford like a $400,000 house. If they have $1,200 a month in student loan payments and they've got another 600 in car payments, like, yeah, you make 100 grand a year. Congratulations. You can't buy anything. So that's why I let the lender have those discussions with them. And then a lot of times the buyer will come back and say, oh, I talked to Michael or I talked to Allie or whatever. Great. And then they'll tell me what they think. As soon as I get off the phone call with them, I'll call the lender myself and just say, okay, where do you think they're really lining up? And they'll usually say, well, if they can put down the 100 grand that they say they can, then they can buy up to this. And you say, okay, great. Then you make your price range like that. Don't worry about the buyer's timing. there's an old adage in real estate that says buyers are liars. It's not that they're liars. It's just that what they think about on that exact day may not be exactly what they do 6, 9, 12 months later. So like you can't get caught up in the hype of they said like, oh, they really want to live in Huntersville, and then 6 months later they're having you show houses in Matthews. Like, well, their job got transferred or whatever. They want to take their kid in a different school. Just they're not. It wasn't that they're lying to you. It's just things change and they have different priorities at different times. Like the fence thing, right? Yeah, we can only buy a house with a fence. Yeah, I don't care. So here's some things like in the actual consultation that I was going over before about reviewing their search criteria, what's important to them. And then when I get done hearing from them, a lot of times I like to sort of educate them on the process and set realistic expectations, right? So I'm a big believer in this is exactly what I tell my buyers. I said, look, this is an educational process for both of us. It's an educational process for you guys to understand what costs what in different areas, what's important to you, and the things that your family really wants. It's important for you guys to learn how much all that costs and the different neighbors and all that stuff. It's a learning process for me as your realtor to understand what's important for you, how to guide you and advise you in different areas, and how to sort of move our search around so that we find, we come up with the perfect house for you guys to buy right now. So it's an educational process for them and it's an educational process for us, right? I didn't get in this business to be a monkey who just drives around and opens up doors for people that tell me, Logan, we want to see this house. Logan, we want to see that house. That I don't do that. I'm an advisor to them. I'm a consultant for them, and that's the role that I take in this process. So if they show me 3 houses that they want to see, I might fire back and say, well, this third one doesn't have X, Y, Z that you guys want. We're just going to go see the first 2. But we're educating them about how the process goes. You might also be educating them now on like, okay, what you guys want. Currently, there's one house for sale that meets the criteria. We're going to have to wait for other homes to come on the market. Hopefully more start coming on the market as spring and summer approaches. Usually the inventory spikes and, it builds in April, May, and June, and then it starts tapering back off. But just kind of, you want to set that educational process with them about, hey, we might go and look at houses in Huntersville, Fort Mill, Matthews, Ballantyne, and then we're going to start to narrow down where you guys want to work. Okay. And then it's talking about secure the buyer loyalty agreement. Again, I don't really do that on this step. So now we're talking about, once we've gotten a house under contract for them. And I think I hope there are other slides on making offers. But once we've got them under contract, the first thing to do is get the inspections scheduled like ASAP. Like if I could get something under contract today and have the inspections tomorrow, man, that's fabulous, because the vast majority of there's only 2 reasons usually why homes fall out of contract, and that's something comes up on the inspection or something comes up with the lender. But the lender stuff is always going to take a couple weeks to uncover. The inspection stuff, you want to get that stuff uncovered ASAP. So we have inspectors that you can use through the office. The Tim Wynn is really good. I actually just used him on an inspection about 2 weeks ago. He did a great job. But what you want to look for an inspector is someone who is not a what's that movie, like Chicken Little or like Sky is Falling kind of person. A lot of these inspectors can scare the living daylights out of your buyers, right? You have some 27-year-old girl buyer, and the inspector's like, well, geez, I found 2 couplings in the attic that weren't right, and I found a hood vent that wasn't connected. And this person's like, oh my God, the house is going to explode. But really, they're just like $3 fittings. And it's like, so you want an inspector that just, tells like these are just facts and lets the buyer decide what they want to do with them, right? But a lot of these newer inspectors or guys that are trying to get into it, they feel like their job is to like be that homes on homes guy on TV. It was like, that's not even a real thing. Like that guy opens up walls. Our inspectors aren't allowed to cut open 5 feet of somebody's wall to see what's going on behind there. There's giving you like, I look at the home inspector as the general practitioner when it comes to the doctor. Like, you just go to this guy for the physical. You want the home inspector to give you the physical of the house. If something's wrong with the roof or this, the structure, this, that, we'll get specialized people in those fields. Just like when you go to your doctor and he doesn't say, geez, you got cancer. He's like, no, I want you to go see this guy over there, and we'll see what the specialist says. Home inspection would be the same thing. Generalized look at the health of the house. From there, if there's something wrong, we'll get specialists involved. From after that, then we're going to do a due diligence request and try to negotiate some repairs or credits from the seller. It's getting a little bit easier to do. The last 2 or 3 years, there hadn't been a whole lot of repair negotiations with the seller because we were in a seller's market and buyers were waiving inspections and waiving appraisals and all stuff. So you get the repairs negotiated, and then you get to the lender stuff. Usually, like I said, usually the appraisal takes like a week or 10 days to schedule, and the lender's doing their background and underwriting and stuff. That takes a week or two. So, the big thing on here that I'd point out that they don't talk about, but in North and South Carolina, we use due diligence. A true due diligence period is going to take you about 21 days. So if you want a little bit longer, maybe you ask for 25 days in the inspection. If you want a little bit shorter, maybe you ask for like 17 or 18. But if you want to do a true due diligence where you're waiting for full underwriting of their loan, that's going to take about 3 weeks to get accomplished. But again, still get your home inspection ASAP. The attorney figures out if there's title issues, then you close the transaction and they move in. That part's pretty easy. Yeah, we already went over this stuff. Yeah. Provide value and provide trust, and then get your agreement signed. Yeah, I mean, what do you say when you're going to make an offer for someone? Is like, obviously, hey, I need you guys to sign this buyer's agency agreement prior to making any offers on your behalf. Like, that's just obvious. Everybody understands it at that point. If you're trying to get it done before then, and sometimes there is an interest in getting it done before then. For instance, somebody will come to you and say, hey, we're working with an agent, but it's not going that well. They're not showing us any houses, or they don't respond to our phone calls. In that instance, then I would ask them, okay, well, do you have a signed buyer agency agreement with that person? If they say yes, then I'm like, all right, well, you need to send them an email first stating that you're terminating that, and get a response from either them or their broker saying that it's terminated. But then I might try to get them into a buyer's agency agreement right off the bat if I know they're the kind of people that are always kind of shopping around and doing weird, crazy stuff like behind your back, which unfortunately there's a lot of people. But yeah, we set the expectations up front about the houses that we're seeing, but there's no magic number. I can't imagine being one of these realtors that keeps track of how many clients he's shown to every one of his buyers. There are guys out there that know, oh, I've already shown these people 23 and a half houses. I can't believe they haven't bought something yet. Why would you do that to yourself? It just seems kind of stupid. But I do like how this talks about communicate. Buyers want constant communication. And what I like to tell agents about this is that I want you communicating with your buyers more than Zillow is. And guess what? Zillow is sending them properties at least once a day. So you better be sending them properties at least once a day, texting them a couple times a week, trying to schedule appointments to go see stuff. Communicate more with them than an app can. I know it seems kind of, now sometimes you might go a period for 2 or 3 weeks where there's nothing on the market. They don't want to see anything. You don't talk to them. That's fine. Definitely set up automatic MLS searches. I mean, I do this for almost anyone I come into contact with. If I'm at an open house and people sign in, the next week I'm signing them up on an MLS search. Just pick the price range of the house, that neighborhood, send it up there. Again, I'm providing value to them. They can unsubscribe. It doesn't hurt my feelings. No more than 6 homes per appointment. Yeah, I mean, 10 years ago, that was something you had to worry about. Now I challenge you to find more than 6 homes that meet a buyer's criteria at any one given time. if you're finding that to be the case, you haven't figured out their criteria enough. I don't really know why this talks about contact your sphere of influence, your database on here. It doesn't really, I mean, I'm not posting many of my buyers these on social media. I mean, I guess, I mean, again, a lot of these agents do this on social media just to make them feel like they're doing like business. Like, I got a buyer that can't find anything, 350 in Huntersville. It's like, dude, get on MLS. But you know, if you want to post that on there so your sphere on Facebook sees that you're working with buyers in a certain price range, yeah, go for it. Yeah, so all right, let's talk about actually showing houses. So we're not calling anyone ahead because, like I said, we have a showing time app that's directly tied into our MLS. You make the appointments on there. It tells you they're approved or declined. It gives you the information about how to get in the lockbox, the code, all that stuff's right on the app. If you don't have the showing time app yet, you should download it. It interfaces with our MLS. Literally saves me 5 hours a week. So get it. It's free. It's through our MLS. And so yeah, but when you get to the house, yes, I do ring the doorbell or knock. And then when I open up the door, I usually do say, "Realtor, hello," you know. That's for a couple reasons. One, obviously, if anybody's home, you want them to notify. And you're gonna say, well, they got notification of the showing. Why are they at home? Well, their 16-year-old kid isn't probably on those text messages about when the showings are happening. And he hears that mom and dad are out of the house for 4 or 5 hours and he's got his girlfriend over. I've been involved in those situations before. You know, one spouse approves the showing, the other one doesn't realize the one spouse approved the showing, they're home and in the shower. I've had that happen before. But also I've had, you know, people that have vagrants that were living in houses that had broken in, that were living in there, and especially back in the day when there was a lot of foreclosures and abandoned properties. I mean, I had a showing in Plaza Midwood where I was like, "Realtor, hello," and 2 guys go jumping off the back deck. So always announce yourself as like a realtor, hello, something like that. My clients, they'll make fun of me after like 6 months of showing them houses, and when they open the door, they'll like my client behind will be like, "Realtor, hello." They're like making fun of me, but I'm like, "Hey, dude, lots of people have guns, and I'm not trying to mess with that. I don't carry guns on showings, but I'll bet you at least 10% of realtors do." But then, yeah, lead the way initially, like go in the house. But the first thing I say to especially new buyers are like, "All right, guys, feel free to look around, open doors, look at all this stuff. You guys look pretty smart. I don't think you need me to tell you what a kitchen and bathroom looks like. Let's just look around." So my job during the showing is not to show them like, "Hey, this is the kitchen. Hey, this is the bathroom." It's to point out things that they may think are important, or point out things that may be wrong with the property, or this or that, right? So if they want a bonus room, like, "Oh wow, look, okay, so this house has a loft and not a bonus room. How loud is that going to be when you guys are watching TV downstairs?" Or, "Oh, hey, look at this," or, "Hey, this house has 10-foot ceilings instead of the last one we were at had only 8. What do you guys think about that?" Like, I'm pointing out things that aren't blatantly obvious, like what a kitchen or bathroom looks like. Or if you're in the kitchen, you say, "Oh man, look, this house has a double oven. Susie, you said having a double oven was one of your dreams," or whatever. I'm pointing out stuff like that. Get them out in the backyard, have them looking around at the neighbors, hearing if they can hear any highways, stuff like that. Like, "Oh, I can hear 45 in the background." Then they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I can too." And I'm like, "Well, does that matter to you guys?" "No, it's far away. It doesn't matter to us." Like, you're pointing out stuff, like we're exploring the house together and we're pointing out things that aren't blatantly obvious, like what the primary bedroom is. And then you're trying to listen and figure out, okay, does the house work for them? Then it doesn't. And talk to them about what their feedback is. Then get feedback from them, because I do always, showing time will automatically email you when your showing is over to provide showing feedback. You can do it on the app, you can do it on the email. I love to provide feedback because I just think as a realtor, it's something that all of us should be doing. It's the right thing to do. It also helps the seller understand stuff. But it's also just good. You want people doing it on your listing, so you do it to other people, it comes back to you. Obviously, return the home as you found it. If you did screw something up, just tell them about it. Tell the other agent, whatever, "I backed in your mailbox. Sorry," or I'll get it fixed. Or, just obviously just, golden rule on that sort of stuff. And then, I mean, it is common to leave your business card if the people are living in the house. I don't always do it. I think it's kind of cheesy nowadays with all this technology. They can figure out on the lockbox exactly the time I opened and closed it. They get an email with my showing notification. Like, you don't need to waste a business card on every single house. Now, some houses are real popular, and I'll put down my business card because I'll see other people's business cards on there just to be like, oh shit, Logan showed this house, but nobody really cares about that. Yeah, I mean, things that, do not, but you want to accompany them like as they're walking through the house and try to keep everyone together, I'd say is a pointer, right? It's annoying to me, and it's not great for the showing if the husband's down in the kitchen, the wife's upstairs, the kids are in the backyard. Like, nobody can get a good gist of how anybody feels about the house if they're all over the place. So I sort of try to keep the kids and the husband and wife or whoever I'm there with, like, sort of all moving in the same general direction. But yeah, feel free to disagree with them. But I mean, there's a lot of houses we walk into, and 45 seconds in the house, like, oh my God, I can't believe this is that. I'm like, all right, I'm free to leave. We can leave. Doesn't a lot of times they think that you're going to get offended. Like, well, you drove all the way here, and now we realize we don't like that. Great, we're one step closer to finding the house that you want by knowing that you don't want this one. Great, let's keep it moving. I mean, that's how I work. I'm like, all right, let's just keep moving. You don't like this house? We don't need to go through that. Like, people want to be like, pretend like they're on, HGTV and walk through the house and just bash everything about, oh my God, look at these people's, look at their decorations, look at their picture, look at I mean, that's seems petty and obnoxious to me. But trust me, people are going to do it. Just get prepared for it. But then, I'll take something from that house and then apply it to the other house. Like, all right, so you guys don't want to look at houses that have this or whatever they were so turned off on. Great. I'll keep it in mind for the tweak to search, whatever we need to do. Well, yeah, I mean, if they're considering a property nowadays, what the market is, they've got to be considering an offer. It's not like, well, we like this house, we're thinking about. It's like, well, we like this house, but we're thinking about making an offer or not. If they say like they like the house, and you're like, all right, well, you guys think you want to talk about making an offer, and they're like, no, well, then they don't really like the house. I mean, sorry, the market's pretty tight. There, you're either making an offer or you don't like the house. There's only really two things about it, but yeah, you're constantly moving it forward. You're one step closer to finding the house that you guys want. But I mean, I think in life in general, knowing what you don't want is probably more important than knowing what you actually want. So, but a lot of times if they want a specific neighborhood, you're going to see one house maybe a month or whatever every couple of weeks. So they were going to get frustrated by, oh, we don't, this is that floor plan we hate or whatever. Okay, well, we'll wait for something else to come on the market. But one of the things I liked on here is, again, I'm not closing anyone on buying a house. I like to say that I've never sold anybody a house. If it's not the house for them and they need me to sell them on it, then let's just keep looking. Because what I tell buyers is, hey, this is literally a decision you have to live with. You have to live with your decision, like as in inside of your decision. You're living with this. So I get to I get to live in a place that I made the decision to live in every day. You've got to do the same. There's not the realtor pushing this house on you. I mean, that is just ridiculous. So, but there are buyer signals that are really easy to spell, especially when a couple is in there together. A couple by meaning man and man, women and women, or women and men. But anytime there's two people that are making the decision together, even two friends that are going to be living together, you'll spot real quick. Oh man, we can put the couch over there, then this will go over here. They start to visualize themselves living in the house. Okay, that's obviously a sign that they want to live in the house, right? So that's an easy clue. If they're placing furniture in the house, or they're talking about, oh, look, we can put a swing set in the backyard for Timmy. I mean, those are things that they're selling that house to themselves. That's how I like it to be. I love to show people 10, 15, 20 houses, and we get to that 20th house and they're like, oh, look, this office is perfect for me. And there's 2 offices and we both can work from home. And oh, look, in the backyard, there's room for the pool we always want. Like they're moving into that house themselves. And then I'm like, all right, perfect. Let me just have the easy job of writing the offer, and making sure you guys get into this dream house. So I'm not closing them on the house. They're closing themselves on the house. I'm just listening for what's going on. Okay. Big distinction there. I don't like the idea of trying to, like I tell people all the time, like, because people ask you, like, well, would you buy this house? It's like, what kind of stupid question? Well, I'm not you, first off. So, no, would you buy this house, buyer? Like, don't ask me what I would buy. But people do. I mean, and they really do want your, I guess, blessing, for lack of a better word, that they're making a good decision or that they're not going to regret it. It's like, dude, I mean, there's no way I'm going to sell 30, 40 houses this year. You think I'd buy every single one of them? No way. So yeah. And then this is just saying, like, if you think if you're showing them houses and they're not liking anything and you show them 10, 12 houses, then maybe the criteria is off or their budget's off or something's off. I'm changing search criteria for people every week. I mean, I don't know why they don't have price on here, but price and due diligence fee are the top 2 key parts of any offer. Especially when it comes to the seller. Most sellers don't even look past page 2, I don't think, of the offer. They want to know, how much are they paying? How much are they putting down? When are we closing? That's how sellers work. But then obviously they want to know what type of loan it is, when your inspection and due diligence dates are, and then obviously we need to put the North Carolina disclosures and mineral oil and gas in there. That's pretty easy. Yeah, I mean, this is a good thing in here. You're going to get price or terms, but really you get both. I would say, yeah, I mean, a buyer's not going to get 100% of things that they want, especially in the market like we have now. But the thing I don't like about this price or terms, but you're really going to get both, is the fact that sometimes the offer that wins the property is not the highest price paid. Both people, the house is listed for 500, somebody offers 500, somebody offers 505, and the sellers take the 500 offer. Why? Maybe they're paying cash, or maybe they're more financially stable. Maybe they're putting down $10,000 in due diligence fee versus $1,000 in due diligence fee. Maybe they're waiving inspections. Maybe they're not having an appraisal. There's a lot of factors. So, price, all those things come into play, but it's not one or the other as much as it wants to do. So this is something that I really do like. I don't use it as a cover letter. I put it in the email of which I send the offer. So I really like to, I tell them the offer is attached, blah, 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 and I give them some of the highlights of the offer. But then I also put in things in here that make me or my buyer different. For one instance, if I've worked with another agent in the past, I'll put that as one of the top couple lines. I look forward to working with you and your team again on another successful closing, because agents feel good working with other agents that they like. They might move your offer to the top, first off. Or if the other agent's like at Realty One, like, I look forward to working with another Realty One agent to get this thing closed. Like, that's something that separates you. But also I put in a couple blurbs about my buyers. I'm not a big fan of those like buyer love letters, as they call them, where the buyers like take a picture with them and their kids at like a pumpkin patch and everyone's lily white and looks so nice in their sweater. I mean, I don't really forward those to my sellers. There's a lot of like discussion whether or not NAR should ban those letters or not, because it leads to the presumption of discrimination. I'm not sure it does. I used to tell my sellers back in the day, I was like, I don't give a shit if it's Osama bin Laden buying the house. If the check clears the bank, you're moving on the 15th or whatever the date is. But sellers do want to know who's buying a house. They love it. Blah, blah, blah. We want to make sure like it's a warm and fuzzy. So I'll put in there something like, oh, my family's a great young couple. They're so excited to raise their children in this home, just like your sellers did. That's amazing. They're leaving the swing set. Their kid was already climbing on it during the showing. And oh, by the way, they don't have a house to sell. And oh, they're so amazing to work with. Like, I'll put in some sappy 2 or 3 sentences about that because it just helps. I mean, this is an emotional decision as much as it is financial. So, but yeah, so you use some sort of thing like this where you're laying out some of the high level terms, how much money they're if they're putting down a lot more than other people are putting down, you're highlighting what makes your offer great. I mean, I'll literally title the email of some of my offers if I know they're getting like 3, 4, 5 offers. The subject line of my email is best in all caps, like best offer for 123 blah 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 street. Because I'm like, well, the agent's going to open that. And if they got to open these emails like 3 or 4 times, hey, maybe I sway their mind a little bit by putting best in all caps at the top, even if it's not the best. I mean, who knows? But some of these times you're begging for straws to try to get it. So, yeah, I mean, we're obviously emailing all of our offers over because we got all these attachments and disclosures and pre-approval letters. All that stuff should go with the offer in one package. I don't like the idea of sending each thing individual. Oh, to send you the pre-approval letter. No, everything needs to come together in one tidy package. But then, yes, the listing agent should either get a call or text from you prior to making that offer. And if you know your clients are considering making an offer, that listing agent should get a call or text from you immediately after the showing. Hey, do you have other offers? Hey, do you have other interests? Is there anything on the table? What's important to your sellers? I mean, that's a great question to ask. What's important to your sellers? Is closing date important? Is high due diligence important to them? Are they just considering price? And then you're going to get some other information. Like listing agents usually are blabbing about how great everything is. So they're telling you other stuff like, well, they're getting a divorce that's finalized next week. And you're like, okay, you shouldn't be telling me any of this, but great, I'll use it to my advantage. But they start blabbing about all kinds of stuff. Well, kids' schools are open January 6th, and they might want to move before that. I mean, they're just giving you just information out the wazoo, but you can use all of that to craft your buyer's offer in a way that should help you get it accepted. But you want to communicate with them as early in the process as you can, because if your buyers are dragging their feet about putting in an offer, you want to have at least some communication with that selling agent prior to, like, hey, give me 2 hours after the deadline for offers. My buyer's at a soccer game and can't get it in or whatever. But as long as you had that communication with them, like immediately when the showing was over, that's clearly the best thing to do. All right. Yeah, we went through this. Yeah, we went to this. Yeah, I mean, this is giving you. I saw this slide earlier. It's like, all right, what's the difference between a seller's market and a buyer? I mean, we're in a seller's market. I'd like to think they're talking about the month's worth of inventory that's on the market. I mean, we're between 2 and 3, but any good property lasts less than 14 days. So that's still a seller's market. I'm hoping we get more balanced here as the year goes on, but we need a shitload more inventory if we're balancing out this market. I mean, I'm talking like 2 times, 3 times the amount of homes that are available for sale now. But we haven't had a balanced market since 2017. So this isn't just COVID. Yeah, obviously we're not presenting offers in person in here in California and some markets on the West Coast, they do. Everything's an email. We just went over that. Yeah. We don't have to send anything to the closing attorney, or we went through this, but we don't have to send anything to the closing attorney until after our offer has been accepted. It's also important to know with the buyers that none of the monies due in the contract are due until after the offer has been accepted. You don't need to get a check from them to make an offer. You don't need to get their Zelle or all that stuff to do. But yeah, so a lot of this stuff that's in these last few slides is for more markets that are on the West Coast driven. So, all right. Well, I got to leave in about 5 minutes. We got 5 minutes for Q&A. So I went 6 minutes over, but we're pretty close for my first time. So, yeah. Anybody have any Q&A here for the last 5 minutes?
I was gonna ask, are the documents that were in that, are those shared in the email, like the templates essentially, so something that we could build off of?
Yep. Yeah, I can send you all those. Yep, I've got all those documents here. I'll forward it to everybody on
Okay.
the call. Actually, let me jot
Perfect.
down everybody that's on here. All right. What other questions do you guys have?
No, I don't have any. You did good. That was a good class.
All right. Yeah, I gave you the real world version of it.
I've got one question, Logan.
Yeah.
Do you ever have any buyers or potential buyers that, after 6, 7 months, however long, you kind of just, I know you mentioned you have your MLS open to them, but are there ever any situations where you're like, okay, this is not going to go anywhere. I'm going to cut the strings to this, or do you really just leave it open for as long as you can to
I
convert?
leave it open as long as I can. I mean, because I take the mentality that eventually they're going to do something.
Right, right.
Right. Now if we have a falling out and I don't want to work with these people again, there's been a handful of times where there's a good amount of people out there that want you to do shady stuff, and when you don't do like as much shady stuff as they're really looking for, they're like getting mad. You're like, well, we would have, if you would have just told them that we didn't have a house to sell, we would have gotten that place. And then they start like, antagonizing me for like not breaking the rules or something. Like, I'll cut those people loose
Right,
and
right,
just be like, I mean, the way I look at it is like, when you first get your license isn't worth that much. But to me, my license is worth several hundreds of thousands of dollars every year.
right.
Whether I'm gonna make $17,000 selling these one people house, it doesn't make up for the other 25 I'm gonna sell to make 350 grand or whatever. I can't risk my license for I mean, people want you to do this kind of stuff all the time. I mean, it's just, but so that's the only time where I can really remember like me cutting people off and being like, oh, I'm not, but otherwise I would just leave it open-ended, leave it open. And because you can see on MLS when they're looking at the search. So I've got people that I haven't talked to in 6 months, but I go on there and see that they're clicking on stuff. So then
Gotcha.
I'm still providing with some sort of value to them.
Yeah, it seems like, obviously the buyer side is a lot more time, effort, harder to
That's
convert,
right.
if you will. So I just wanted to get a feel as to like, if you're looking at your leads and you're seeing like, okay, I've got 80% buyer leads and only 20% seller leads. I want to even that out. Is there ever a time where you're kind of just like, okay, let me get rid of some of these. Let me try to go for more listings. Or
I mean, I could probably handle 5 listings for every one buyer, or maybe more, maybe 7 listings for every one buyer. I mean, yeah, buyers are taking twice the amount of time.
Wow.
I mean, actually, they're taking twice the amount of time. Listings take a lot of time up front, but then after that, they don't take that much time. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I would say that probably is just going to come with time in the business. I don't even think I got to 50-50 split of buyers and sellers till I had been in the business for over 10 years.
Wow. So like really
Just because we live in a market that more people are moving to and buying. Like think about it from just the market that we live in, right? There's more buyers than sellers every single day in Charlotte since 2017. So
Yeah,
that just by default, and there's 21,000 realtors in our MLS, and there's only going to be about 50,000 transactions this year. Now, if there's a realtor on either side, that means there's 100,000 sides. 50,000 transactions times 2, that's 100,000 sides. 21,000 realtors. That means that the average realtor should be doing 5. Well, the problem is if I do 30, I'm going to screw over 10 other realtors that are all going to be doing 0. But there's more buyers coming to our market than there are sellers for the last 6 or 7 years. So naturally, all of us are going to be skewed towards buyers. Because think about like new construction, right? Those are just all buyers. You can't list Pulte's homes for them.
Right.
And they are 15 to 20% of our market in Charlotte. So if you take their 15%, 20% out of the market and leave the 80 up that we can represent as sellers, well, then even the best agents are still going to be 80-20 listings to buyers. Just naturally, just how the numbers are going to fall out. So, but when you start out, you're going to be 80% buyers, 20% listings. The goal would be to get to 80% listings, 20% buyers, but
Yeah.
I'm not even, I won't even be close to that last year or this year. I'll be maybe 55, 45 or something like that if I'm lucky. And that's if I'm lucky. But that's if all my buyers are, or if that's if most of my sellers are moving out of town. If they're all just moving in Charlotte, well, then that's a 50-50 split right there.
True. Helping them
So,
on
yeah.
the sale and buying a new home.
I'd be willing to bet that 98% of realtors always represent more buyers than sellers. There's maybe 2% of these guys that are doing all the more listings.
That's helpful. That definitely gives good insight. Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else? I got 2 more minutes.
How do you do to keep pushing, because you don't want to be pushing like prospective clients, because I have a couple that are trying to get over the hump of the pre-approval process, but they think they're gonna get a house in like a couple weeks, and like trying to
Just manage
make
their
them understand.
expectations. And if they see that only like one thing's coming on the market every week that meets their criteria, they're knowing that they're not being able to buy each individual house. Or just tell them like, hey, look, we might have to make 3, 4, 5 offers on stuff before we even get one. I mean, they might just think like, oh, they find a house they like, they make an offer, they get the house. No, that's not that easy anymore. We might have to make 3, 4, 5 offers on houses before we even get one. So yeah, I mean, I would just tell them they need to get going. And again, even if people don't want to move into something until August, I'm still showing them houses in January so they can learn what things cost, what the neighborhoods are like, what the homes are like, all that stuff. But also, if somebody's not buying a house till August, they legit need to start putting in offers on stuff in like April. So I want a couple month runway to get them out there looking at stuff. And it's the idea, Maria, is that they're scared that they're wasting your time. Like, so if you're pushing them like, hey, I think we should go look at this house, even though if it's not the right one, I want to show you guys a house in XYZ neighborhood. They'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, we want to see that neighborhood too, even if this isn't the right house. Because they think they just got to go find the right house on the first try, make an offer and get it. You just need to explain to them, this is a process. We might need to see 10 homes before we find one that we want to make an offer on. We might need to see 25. We might need to see 10, then make 3 offers, not get them, see another 10, make an offer, get it. I mean, you just got to explain to them that it's not like going to a store and buying something. This is a process that takes months and months and months. And we need to go see houses, even if they don't look perfect on the pictures.
Totally. Yeah. It's more educational, I guess.
Yeah. You need to be pushing them along. You need to be telling them like, this isn't wasting my time. This is what we need to do. We don't just go and buy a house tomorrow. It takes months to buy a house. So let's go. I think we should go see this one. I think we should go see that one. Oh, hey, they're not too far away. Maybe if you guys have an hour, we can go see both of them in the same hour. Let's try to go. Are you guys free this Saturday morning? I think we should see these 2 houses, and I don't think they're going to last through the weekend. So let's try to get out there Friday or Saturday. Stuff like that. If you start pushing them on them, they'll think less and less that they're wasting your time because they'll be doing what you want them to do.
Yeah, I think it's more like the narrative of they're gonna fall in love with a house and they're not gonna get it. So until they are ready to move, but still, like, you're not gonna find a house and move in a couple weeks. It's not realistic at all. So
not even a couple months. I mean, right now, I don't even see how anybody could realistically have a time frame of less than 3 months. There's no way. That would be 100% not realistic to have a time frame of 3 months or less to find and buy and close on a house. I mean, you can walk them backwards. You're like, all right, even if we want to close on April 1st, all right, that means we need to be under contract on something by March 31st. Well, or that seller maybe takes 45 days to move out of the house. So that pushes us back to March 15th. We need to have something under contract by then. Like that, that's like, all right, so then now we only have 45 days from now to then. Well, only one house is coming on the market every week. That means we're only going to have 4 to 5 houses to pick from between now and March 15th to buy something. that doesn't seem that great.
Totally. Okay.
All right, guys. Well, I got to hop off, but I'll email you guys all that stuff this afternoon. Thanks for joining my first rev up. Hope you guys are enjoying the series, and hope to see everybody Thursday at the luncheon at Napa on Providence. Come out, whether you've closed deals or not, or even Avery, you've only been a part of it for a week. Come on out. It's from 11 to 1 on Thursday, and it's going to be a nice like 3-course lunch. So hopefully everybody can make it. And let me know if y'all have any other questions in the meantime.
Perfect.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Logan.
Thank you.
Have a great Monday.
All right. You too.
Bye.